over my light again. Oh my god. Oh man, okay. That was messy. And chat's not loading. Chat ain't loading. I'm gonna be the one. Alright. Hey, Gecky! How's it going? I'm a mess, Gecky. Let me tell you about it. So I just took the dog out for the last point of the night, and as I was shutting the door, a little frog got into the house, and I'm like, if I don't rescue this frog right now, it's gonna get lost and it's gonna die. So I had to rescue the frog, and that's why I'm running late. I'm still setting up the stream. I did rescue the frog. The frog is outside and it's unharmed. But oh my god, wouldn't have been easier just to let it die inside. But I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. Alright, so we gotta finish putting in our overlays. Yeah, oh my god, I'm sorry. I'm being a dramatic little B word right now. Alright, that's the thing we want. Okay, alright, put this over here. You get to see behind the scenes about how the whole show works. Yeah, so basically I take this little overlay and I stick it behind here, and I just layer it, because I key out this little window, I make it a different color, and then I select the video background, key it out, and that way you can see the webpage underneath it. So that's how I do this thing. That's the show. Oh man. Alright, so as you can see, everybody, our commander, well, we just realized that everything we just said is going to be the first few minutes of our YouTube video when the stream gets posted. So if you just heard my drama, everybody, welcome. I'm BGM, and tonight on Live Deck Building, we are building the Jolly Balloon Man. This is a little Boros legendary 3-drop 1/4 human clown. It's got haste and an activated ability. We can pay 1 mana, we can tap our Jolly Balloon Man, and we can make a complex creature token, except it's a balloon creature. It's also got haste, and we got to sacrifice it at the beginning of the end step. So we want to run token doublers, we want to run enter the battlefield effects like impact tremors, because we're going to make oodles and boodles of balloons with our Jolly Balloon Man. If you have anything that you would run in the Jolly Balloon Man, put it in the comments, everybody. We're making complex balloon creature tokens with our new friend, the Jolly Balloon Man, from Duskmorn. Yeah. Welcome. Alright, so when I think creature tokens, I gotta immediately jump to my boy Mondrak. I love Mondrak. Mondrak is one of my favorite cards from all V1. He is now $50. He gets a little bit more expensive every time we look at him. He's a 4-drop legendary white Phyrexian 4/4, and if one or more tokens would be made under our control, we make double that amount of tokens. It works on creature tokens, it works on treasure tokens, it works on non-creature tokens, all kinds of tokens. Especially balloons. So let's say, it might even be worth it when we have Mondrak on the battlefield to make copies of legendary creatures, because if legendary creatures have ETBs, we'll get those effects. Or if they have leaving the battlefield or death triggers, we'll get those too. Yeah, I like Mondrak. When I think creature tokens, I'm thinking Mondrak. I'm pretty sure Village Bell Ringer. Yeah, Village Bell Ringer. What the heck is a Village Bell Ringer? That sounds like an Innistrad-ass card, if I am not mistaken. Village Bell Ringer is a human scout. It's white. It's a 3-drop. It's a 1/4. It's got flash, and when it enters the battlefield, you untap all creatures you control. Okay, this is pretty cool. So not only will this untap our commander, but we get a little 1/1 balloon version of this thing. This thing's cool. We could instant speed activate the Balloon Man. I would think this effect would be a lot more impactful if our commander, the Jolly Balloon Man, didn't say that we have to activate him as a sorcery. That's a little bit of a bummer. If he didn't activate as a sorcery, we can use this little flashy 3-drop to untap him at instant speed and then make other complex tokens. Yeah, but he's cool. He does work. He can untap our commander, and then when we make a copy of it, it also untaps our commander. Ooh, Rainbow Popster wants us to run that here. Nesting Dovehawk. Is that Nesting Dovehawk that, like, stupid thing that's really expensive from Murders? Yeah, this bird's from Murders at Karlov Manor. It's from the Precon, and it says that it's a 2/2 for 4 mana. It's got flying. Gives us the beginning of our combat trigger to populate. Populate is a keyworded term that means that we will make a copy of a creature token we control. This thing's super silly because we're going to have complex tokens, because we're going to make complex tokens of things like the Nesting Dovehawk. We're just going to make them balloons. So we can make copies of this bird and get extra triggers if we activate this thing before combat in our first main phase. Whenever a creature token enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on the Nesting Dovehawk. This thing turns out to be a big-ass flying bird once we get the ball rolling on our Jolly Balloon Man commander. Give me a sec, guys. I was a little late setting up today because I was trying to rescue a frog that jumped into my living space, and I didn't want it to dry out and die. So I'm a little late today. I'm just going to try to fix this chroma key quick, trying to make myself a little bit less glitchy. Yeah, that's a little bit better. That's a level of glitch I can live with. Okay, thank you for that, guys. Goatman. Hey, Goatman, what's good? Goatman wants us to run a Daxos. Which Daxos, my friend? Daxos? Is there a... Oh, yeah, the mono-white Daxos. Yo, they printed that mono-white Daxos to death. This 2-white pip little enchantment legendary demigod creature, it's got 2 power, and it's got toughness equal to your devotion to white. That's the amount of white pips in the casting cost of permanents you control. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain yourself 1 life. This is very cool. We could run effects like this. We can run Suture Priest, Soul Warden, Soul's Attendant, and we can just gain a crap ton of life. Yeah, I like it. Excuse me. I had a cough. The only thing that kind of a little bit feels like a nombo to me with our friend Daxos here is that he's legendary. He doesn't really have an ETB effect. I guess we can gain 1 or 2 life when we pop him into balloons. If we were doubling up the tokens, I don't know. I would rather, if I may be so bold to recommend a Soul's Attendant. Soul's Attendant is pricier. It's like 10 times pricier. This one's $6. I'm pretty sure you can get Daxos for like a quarter. This thing's a little 1-drop. It's white. It's a white human cleric, 1/1. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, we gain a life. This one is my preferred little ETB. You gain 1 life off of all the creatures, because this one also sees your opponent's creatures. It is a lot more money-wise. This one's $6, but I like this one over Daxos. It's half the mana, and it works on your opponent's creatures. Imperial Red Lemming, good to see you, Red Lemming. Imperial Recruiter, hey everybody. We are having a lot of suggestions right now. Please do not spam the chat. We are looking for an Imperial Recruiter. If you see your suggestion get scrolled away, maybe copy your suggestion before you put it in. And that way, if you see it get scrolled away, you can put it back in. Please don't spam, though. This is an Imperial Recruiter, and this is what I'm talking about, because this little 3-drops got an ETB effect. That means when we pop him into a balloon, or we make balloons of him, we're going to get those ETBs when those tokens enter. And this one's just a tutor, y'all. You search your library for a creature card with power 2 or less, you put it into your hand. There it is. And then you can find some really spicy stuff at that 2 power slot. That little legendary Daxos we saw a card ago, that's got 2 power, and it can have a big-ass butt because it's got toughness equal to its devotion to white. But this can find it because it's got power 2 or less. Yeah, these are the kind of things I would run on the Jolly Balloon Band. Things that have like death triggers or ETB triggers I think would be really effective. Gecky wants us to run hell yeah, Anointed Procession would be a great one to run. Yeah, Anointed Procession. Anointed Procession is I think it's like 60 bucks, but here we are affiliated with Printing Proxies, so if you want to spend 75 cents instead of $60 so that you can run an Anointed Procession. It's a 4-drop white enchantment, and it says that if we would make tokens, we make double that amount of tokens. Here it is. It's originally printed in the Amonkhet block like 5 or 6 years ago. It's cool. It's great. It's 60 bucks. Recommend a proxy, but it is like the premier white token doubler. People often run it over Mondrak when they have like that freedom of choice because it's an enchantment, and enchantments are harder to get rid of. Generally. Yeah, that's Anointed Procession. Thank you, Gecky, for the suggestion. Voidless Void! Delnay! Delnay, hell yeah, we're gonna run Delnay. Delnay's cool, and it is gonna cause our balloons to trigger twice. Streetwise, look out. Delnay is cool. It's a mono-white commander. It came out in the Murders at Karlov Manor expansion. It's a 3-drop. It's a 2/2, and it says that creatures you control with power 2 or less, if an ability they control would trigger, it triggers an additional time. And creatures you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. This thing's great. It's going to make our balloons unblockable. If we have balloons that have ETB or death triggers, it's going to cause them to trigger twice. And because the balloons get sacrificed at the beginning of the end step, after we make them, death triggers would be pretty cool to run as well. Jack wants us to run a Molten Primordial. Molten Primordial. Is that the Modern Horizons 3 thing? Molten Primordial. Molten Primordial. Uh-oh, Molten Primordial. It's 8 mana. It's mono red. It's a 6/4. It's got haste, and it says when it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, gain control of up to 1 target creature that player controls until end of turn. Untap those creatures. They get haste. Okay, so effects that say, like, effects in red that say you gain control of target creature, give it haste, untap it, those are known as threaten effects. This is a very cool threaten effect on a $2 creature for 7 mana in mono red. It's got haste, and it has an ETB. So when we make balloons of this thing, we're going to be taking a threaten from each of our opponents, grabbing their spiciest boy, and untapping and probably swinging at them with it, because that feels the most satisfying, right? Like, when you take someone's creature, like, it's just so delicious to swing at them with their creature. Am I wrong? This thing's very cool, though. I really like that it's only $2. This is spicy. I also love that it works on all your opponents. Hey, Josh MTG, if y'all are into baked goods and Jisa and Geralf, please check out my friend Josh MTG. He makes some really impressive baked goods, and he made my favorite post ever posted on TikTok. Good to see you, Josh. Thanks for hanging out with me. Do you have any suggestions for Boros tokens? Skull Clamp! Hell yeah, Skull Clamp! Skull Clamp's simply the best piece of card draw we could run. Skull Clamp is a little colorless 1/1 artifact. It's got equip 1, and when we equip it to a creature, it's going to get +1, -1. And if it's on a 1/1, I don't know, like a balloon, maybe, it's gonna pop the balloon, and we're gonna get a death trigger. When the creature dies, we draw 2 cards off the clamp itself. I really enjoy Skull Clamp. Skull Clamp simply is the best piece of card draw you can run in a deck that is making 1/1s. It's so good. That's why this one's $10. It's very cool. I like Skull Clamp. We can pop our balloons with Skull Clamp. Thank you, Red Lemming. Voidless Void wants us to run an Angel of Grace. Angel of Grace, not Amgel, Angel. Angel of Grace. Angel of Grace is a 5-drop, came out in Ravnica Allegiance. It's a flashy flying 5/4. When it enters the battlefield until end of turn, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1, reduce it to 1 instead. This thing's cool. You can also exile it for 6 mana from your graveyard, and your life total becomes 10. I like this thing. In a pinch, you could make a balloon of it and save yourself a second time. It's got flash. It's a 5-drop instant creature. That's really cool. I really like that we can also balloon it at well, actually, no, we can't balloon it to save ourselves because Balloon Man only does stuff at sorcery speed. My bad, guys. If I ever make a mistake, please feel free to call me out in the comments. I humble myself every time I turn my webcam on. Man, I really like the Jolly Balloon Man design-wise, but I sure do wish that you could activate him at instant speed. He would be the funnest Boros commander if you could do it at instant speed. Ooh, Luxie wants us to run that here. Ocelot Pride. I tell you what, guys. I bought that fucking $40 one-drop cat when it came out. And I gotta tell you guys, it came out in Modern Horizons 3, right? I bought this thing. I bought the single. I was super excited about it. It felt like Anointed Procession on a one-drop. And I'm gonna be so fucking real. I'm gonna be so super real with you guys. I have never once got this thing's good end step trigger. The thing that's super notable about this here Ocelot Pride is you gotta gain life. And when people can see it on board, they're gonna stop you from gaining life. I don't know, it's a cool card, I really like it. I got the fancy art, but I kind of regret buying it for 40 bucks. I don't recommend it for this price, personally, but here we are affiliated with Printing Proxy, so if you want to spend 75 cents instead of $70 to test play an Ocelot Pride, please check out Printing Proxies. Yeah, very cool suggestion. It's complicated, though. It's hard. It's got multiple hoops you gotta jump through. Most of the time, it's a 1/1 with lifelink that has to chump block something spicy. That's been my experience with this here $70 Ocelot Pride. Oh, Scooby Doofin wants us to read that Meteor Golem. Meteor Golem's rad. Meteor Golem is just a spicy little 7-drop, and I sometimes play Meteor Golem when I don't know what else to put in the deck. I flip past a Meteor Golem in the binder, and I'm like, you'll do. And we play him, because he's fun, especially if your deck can blink stuff, make tokens of stuff, or recur stuff, because when this 7-drop enters the battlefield, you destroy target non-land permanent an opponent controls. And that's never a bad effect. You're always going to need a little piddly piece of removal, maybe get rid of us. Oh, did you guys hear about, what are they called, Game Changers? Did you guys hear about the Game Changers announcement today? Actually, we should maybe we should we'll maybe pull that up too. The Game Changers for the Commander brackets that the new advisory group came out with. The Commander Format Group, I think is the new name. I don't know. Anyway, that's Meteor Golem. I like it. It's a budget card. It's only 40 cents. And it's got some cool arts, too. Oh, Cranko. Joshua Murchie wants us to run Cranko. He wants us to crank. Let's talk about Cranko. Cranko is the premier mono-red commander in Commander as a format. He's like the #3 most built Commander deck ever, period. Lots of people have built Cranko. He's super popular. And he cranks all over the battlefield, because you can activate him and you create X goblins. Excuse me. Where X is the amount of goblins you got. He taps, he doubles your goblins. He's very cool. It's cool to run effects that untap him. And so you can keep tapping, keep cranking, keep making a bunch of gobby guys. He's nuts. Cranko can be turned into CDH so fast with just some like really efficient mana and draw and effects. He's really cool. If you've never built or played against Cranko, he's a good time. Josh, how do you feel about the Game Changers, bro? Bro, okay, so I agree with all the Game Changers. I have like I can pop up like put a stack of binders on a desk. I own 4 cards on that list. Only 4. It's Bolsa Citadel, Red Stick Study, and some other things. Yeah, I own like 4 cards. I was unsurprised and I'm unbothered. Mirror Box, yeah. Mirror Box would be a great thing to run in this here Jolly Balloon Man. Mirror Box is a little 3-drop artifact. It's colorless, and it says the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control. So if we got other legendary creatures, like we saw that Daxos, we saw Cranko, we've seen some other legendaries, we can use Mirror Box, and then we can start ballooning our legendaries, and we won't have to sacrifice one, because the balloons will still be legendary. And this thing will turn off the legend rule, so we can keep our complex legendary balloon tokens, at least until the end step where they get sacrificed. It also has 2 other abilities, but I always just get so excited about that first one that I'm like, yeah, I don't need to read the rest. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1, and each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature. Cool, so it kind of gives, yeah, it gives a little Anthem effect too. Song of the World Soul. Song of the World Soul. Song of the World Soul. I am not familiar with Song of the World Soul. Is that the... This sounds like a green card. Okay. Nope, it's white. It's 6-drop mono white enchantment. Whenever you cast a spell, you populate. You create a token of a creature token you control. It's cool. It's great, because we can make additional balloons. And if we make additional balloons with this effect, we can keep them, right? Because the sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step, that ability is attached to the Balloon Man. So these balloons, I feel, will stick around and we won't have to sacrifice. Because this thing is making the token... Am I wrong about that? If I'm wrong about that, someone please sound off in the comments. But I'm pretty sure this will let us keep the balloons. Or at least the one that we populate. The populated balloon. Can you show me Yosei the Morning Star? Yeah, I'll show you Yosei. Thank you so much for suggesting something, Jack. I appreciate it. Yosei the Morning Star is a 6-drop white dragon spirit. It's flying. It's a 5/5. When it dies, you... Oh, target player skips his or her next untapped step. Non-binary people can't be targeted. And you tap 5 permanents that player controls. I love this. I run this in a Teysa Karlov deck, and the Teysa Karlov doubles death triggers. This thing is so threatening in a game of casual Commander. This thing just stops someone's next turn. It is so good. It's only $1. The only downside is that it is 6 mana and you want to kill it. And if you can, you want to kill it at instant speed. That's why I really wish this thing had... I really wish the ability could be activated in an instant. This thing, only as a sorcery, is what keeps this thing from being broken as hell. Yeah, but I love this. This is such a threatening thing. If you have an altar or like a sacrifice outlet that you can get rid of creatures at instant speed, you can just say, I'm gonna skip your turn, kind of. It's so douchey. And if you can double the death trigger, you can do it to 2 people. It's so messed up. I love this card. I also love that it's $1. It's probably one of the meanest cards I play. I kind of label myself as like Weenie Hut Juniors when it comes to Commander. I don't play infinite combos. I don't play extra turns. I don't play anything that stops people from producing mana. The Game Changer cards I only own 4 of, period. Like, I'm so not a CDH person. Panharmonicon is a 4-drop artifact. If an artifact or creature entering causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control, it triggers an additional time. This thing's great. As we've talked about earlier, we want to be running stuff with ETB effects because we're going to be blowing it up into little balloons. We want to be running ETBs. Panharmonicon will give us multiple ETBs. It's kind of like we're double spelling. This thing will give us a ton of value and more value depending on how hard we lean into the ETB theme of this deck. I really like this card. It was originally printed in Kaladesh. I am really glad they reprinted it because even the reprint from the Aether Drift Precon is already $5. This card was pricey when it first came out about 10 years ago. It's cool though. I really like it. And I'm glad to see that the price is going down. Rainbow Puffster is like, it's like why... I like Nesting Dovehawk in this deck. Make a token and keep making Nesting Dovehawks. Nesting Dovehawk is cool. Nesting Dovehawk, I wanted to buy a single of, but I didn't because it's pricey. This 4-drop is $20, and it's a flying 2/2. At the beginning of combat, you get a populate trigger. Populate is a keyword ability where you make a creature token of a creature token you control. Or you make a copy of a creature token you control. And whenever a creature token enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on your birdie boy. This thing's great. It turns into a big, flying, threatening dragon in a token deck. It's so good. And it makes complex tokens because of the populate trigger. We can populate our spiciest balloons. And what's interesting about it is when the trigger triggers, right? The trigger triggers at the beginning of combat, so we do have that first main phase where we can activate our Jolly Balloon Man to make the complex token that we want to populate. This thing's really good. We could just be making copies of this, and if it wasn't for that sacrifice effect... Man, I feel like they really neutered this thing. Like, after they printed Nadu, they're like, we can't print any more broken-ass 3-drop commanders. Because if this thing didn't say only as a sorcery and sacrificing at their end step, this would be the most broken Boros card ever. And it's super fun still. I just really wish we could do it at instant speed. That's what makes me bummed. Oh, Circuit Mentor, thank you Dream Demon, good to see you. I'm sorry, I missed you earlier. Circuit Mender. I saw yours go by like as I was reading a different one earlier. Thank you for sticking around. Circuit Mender is a 3-drop colorless artifact insect. It's 40 cents. When it enters the battlefield, we gain ourselves 2 life. And when it leaves the battlefield, we draw a card 10 out of 10. I also saw Solemn Simulacrum go by. Thank you, Scooby Doofin. So we're going to talk about that one in just a sec. So things like Circuit Mender that have an ETB effect and a die effect are so good in the Jolly Balloon Man. This thing can enter, gain us a little bit of life. We start popping balloons or making balloons. Wait for our end step. Pop them with the sacrifice trigger. Get the death trigger to draw a card. This thing's real good. This is just a spicy little value insect. And if you know what's even better than that though? Solemn Simulacrum. Solemn Simulacrum has an ETB effect and a death effect too. When it enters the battlefield, we search our library for a basic, we plop it down onto the battlefield tapped, and when it dies, we draw ourselves a card. This thing is a great candidate to start making balloons of. 10 out of 10 candidate. Honestly, best thing we could probably make. This is so cool. Okay, and also, what's really spicy about this too, is in regards to like our commander being 3 mana, this thing being 4, it's the spell we're going to cast right after our commander, which is a little, I don't know. Actually, would we play a 4-drop on the turn we play, or on the turn after we run our commander? I don't know about that. Because if we do that, we won't have the mana to copy the creature. So I imagine we want to cast a lower drop creature than 4. Maybe a 3-drop at most, because if we hit our 4th land drop on the turn after, then we can copy it immediately. I think that's the... Infinite Arc Runner wants us to run the Helm of the Host. Yeah, Helm of the Host. I recently edited my own head into the Helm of the Host on a video. Helm of the Host is a 4-drop. It's a legendary artifact equipment. It's got equip 5. It gives you a combat trigger. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you create a hasty token of the creature it's equipped to, except the token is not legendary. Also, it's hasty. This thing's really cool. We can make copies of our commander, and then we can make big bunches of balloons at a time. This thing is like the premier copy effect, copy your commander card in Commander, the format. Because this thing, because it affects legendaries, or excuse me, because it gets rid of legendaries, because the token ain't legendary, it's the best way, and it fits into every deck that you can copy your commander. That's why this thing's $10. It's one of the, like, when I think of commander as a format, I think of this card. And they keep putting it in precons. It's a really fun one. It is a mana investment of 9, unless you're cheating it out or cheating the equip cost, though. So, be mindful. Sometimes it must be done. What must be done, Rainbow Puffster? Goblin Settler. I have no... Goblin Settler? Well, I'm sure we're going to see something awful. The chat tried to protect us. Let's talk about Goblin Set... Oh, God, it's ugly. Okay. It's a 4-drop. It's a 1-1. When it enters the... Ew. Ew, ew, ew. Who put this in here? Shame on you, Rainbow Puffster. Ew. Here, be shamed. Shame upon you. It's funny that during the Commander Brackets beta announcement today, they mentioned land denial as one of the things that creates field bads in Commander. And this thing, if you were playing this thing in like Goblin Tribal, if you weren't gonna make copies of this thing over and over with balloons, this thing wouldn't be so bad. But because we're gonna be ballooning it, this thing is awful and disgusting. Into the deck it goes. Thank you for the suggestion. Clone Shell. What the heck is a Clone Shell? Clone Shell is... Okay, it's colorless. It's a 5-drop. It's 40 cents. It's got imprint, which means when it enters the battlefield, you look at the top 4 cards of your library, you exile 1 face down, and then you put the rest on the bottom in a random order. When this thing dies, you turn the exile card face up. If it's a creature card, you put it onto the battlefield under control. This thing's amazing. I love this thing. I love that it's 40 cents. I love that it's colorless. I love that it wants to die. This thing's so good. Okay, let's talk about it, right? So we're going to be casting this thing, making balloons of it. When the balloons die, we're going to be popping out free creatures from our balloons. This is so fun. Great 10 out of 10 suggestion. Who put this in here? Who put this in here? Dream Demon. Great job, Dream Demon. I love that it's also 40 cents and the art's a vibe as well. Great suggestion. I would run the hell out of that. Oh, Logan, I think I've made Strufus already. If you got, oh, I haven't plugged myself. Okay. Hey everybody, I'm BGM. I'm a video editor and a streamer, and on lives we do live deck building. Our commander tonight is the Jolly Balloon Man. If you want to suggest any cards, and if you see your suggested cards over here that you're going to put in the comments if you want to suggest a card, your card will be put into a Moxfield deck list, and you can see what everybody else would run in the Jolly Balloon Man. And you can see that Moxfield deck list by going to the link tree on my profile if you're on TikTok. Ocelot Pride, we'll talk about Ocelot Pride again. I had a little bit of a rant about Ocelot Pride. Let's talk about it. So this thing's 70 bucks now. This thing came out in Modern Horizons 3 last year, and it was 40 bucks at the time, and I bought it immediately because I was super excited about the cute cat that functions like Anointed Procession. This thing's got Ascend, First Strike, Lifelink. It's a 1/1 for 1 mana in white. And at the beginning of your end step, if you gained life this turn, you create a 1/1 cat creature token. And if you have the City's Blessing, for each token you control that was entered the battlefield this turn, you create a token that's a copy of it. This thing's great. This is an end step to double your token production for the turn. Feels really good. I like it a lot. I bought it, and I have not gotten it to go off once since I bought it, and I spent $40 American for it. It's 70 bucks now. I would advise you to be super specific. Like, you want your deck to care about tokens, but you also want it to care about life gain, because you do gotta get life gain during the turn to get this to pop off. Be advised. It's very cool, and it's a cute cat, but oh my god, has it not worked out for me. Marvin Murderous Mimic. Marvin Murderous Mimic would be so good in this deck. Let's talk about it. Marvin Murderous Mimic is a legendary 2-drop toy from Duskborn. He's a 2/2. When he has all activated abilities of all creatures you control on the battlefield that don't have the same name as Marvin here. He's great. Activated abilities are abilities that have semicolons. Semicolons denote the difference between a cost to do an ability and the effect of the ability. So anything with a semicolon, Marvin has those abilities. Our commander over here has a semicolon, where we pay 1, we tap it, semicolon, and then we do the thing where we make the balloon. This thing's very cool. I like it. We can make big bunches of balloons. We can make twice as many balloons as we would otherwise make with our friend Marvin here. I like him a lot. He also came out in Duskborn, and I'm super glad that he's only 4 bucks right now. I hope he doesn't go up. I hope he stays cheap. Stays alive! The balloon with Jolly stays alive. Now I use the balloon version to gain life. I have popped off with it very rare. Sundial of the... Brian wants us to run the Sundial of the Infinite. Thank you guys for the 630 legs. And thank you, Luxie, for the 5 roses. I'm sorry I missed those earlier. Thank you very much. I'm so bad about seeing when gifts. You're only allowed to have 1 alert on TikTok live on the computer version. And it only... So I have it for follows. So thank you very much for the follow, D-Rex California. I appreciate it. I like the little emoji in your name. How'd you do that? That's pretty cool. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. This is the Sundial of the Infinite. It's a 2-drop artifact. It's got a 1 mana activated ability where we pay 1 mana, we tap this thing. End the turn. Activate this ability only during your turn. Okay, cool. So this thing is kind of a janky... You want to be running effects. If you're running the Sundial of the Infinite, you're probably running the original Obeka Commander in Grixis colors, and that card worked kind of like this. If you end the turn with this thing's ability, effects that say, like, until end of turn, don't go off. Actually, I just got it. I put it together. It took me a moment. Thank you for your patience. This card's amazing. Let's talk about it. We have to sacrifice these things at the beginning of, right, the end step, at the beginning of the next end step. When we use an effect like the Sundial of the Infinite to end the turn, we don't have to sacrifice the balloons, and the balloons stay. Thank you, chat. I'm sorry, chat. It took me a moment, chat, but I appreciate it. Yeah, this thing's so rad. I would run this in a heartbeat. I wish it was cheaper, though. 15 bucks is a lot for a single, but it's a really cool card, and it gets your balloons to stick around until you want to pop them yourself. I like this card. This is a very cool card. This kind of fixes half of my problem with the Jolly Balloon Man of the tokens not sticking away, but sticking around. But the other half of my problem with the Jolly Balloon Man is that we can only activate him as a sorcery. That makes me sad. Imagine if we could activate him at instant speed. We could copy a creature, make a balloon of something with like an ETB effect or a death trigger, and we could block with it and kind of kill it at instant speed. That would be sick. I really wish we could do this thing at instant speed. And we can't even do it at instant speed with Marvin, because Marvin just has the same ability. Oh, a Neem Pakal! I have an Neem Pakal deck. I love a Neem Pakal. I run my Jolly Balloon Man in my Neem Pakal, and I'll tell you why in a moment. I need to wet my mouth. 3-drop legendary Boros Human Soldier 1/2. Whenever you attack with a creature that is not a gnome, you plop a +1/+1 counter on our girl Aneem, and then you make that many attacking 1/1 tapped gnome colorless creature artifact construct tokens, right? Not constructs, just gnomes. They're just colorless gnomes. Yeah, so we can gnome out with a Neem. I love a Neem, because any piddly little white spell in an Neem Pakal deck that puts a singular 1/1 counter on a Neem Pakal and does something else is so good in a Neem Pakal. I love a Neem Pakal. This is a really fun deck. It's 10 out of 10 would recommend. Yeah, ETB Treasure Token is goated in the Balloon Man. Also, Mirror... Yeah, let's talk about Mirror Box again. Excuse me, guys. Mirror Drop Box is a 3-drop colorless artifact that says that the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents we control. This would be super cool to run in the Jolly Balloon Man, because the balloons that we're making with our Jolly Balloon Man, they're still legendary if we're making a copy of something that's legendary. This thing will turn that off. But it not only just turns that off, it also supplies an Anthem effect to our creatures. It gives our legendary creatures +1/+1. The tokens are still legendary, so the tokens get the Anthem too. And each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each creature you control with the same name as that creature. So our originals get +2/+2, and the copy gets +1/+1. Pretty good. It turns our balloons into 2/2s, and it turns our originals up by 2. It's good. It also enables us to make balloons of legendary creatures. Very cool. Ogier Talk. Let's talk about Ogier Talk. Ogier Talk. Ogier Talk. Ogier Talk. Ogier Talk's rad. Ogier Talk, $43. Ogier Talk, 6 mana, mono white. Ogier Talk, 6/6 vigilance. If one or more creature tokens would be created under your control, you create triple that many tokens. Notable about the way that this thing's worded, it's just creature tokens. It's not treasures, it's not clues, it's not non-token creatures, it's creature tokens. But our balloons are creature tokens, so we can triple up our balloon production with Ogier Talk, with our Jolly Balloon Man. And if we have a mirror box on the battlefield, we can make balloon copies of Ogier Talk and just Fibonacci out. Make a crazy amount of tokens. Very cool. Ooh, Renewed Solidarity just came out in Aether Drift. Okay, Luxie, Luxie, thank you so much for the roses. I'm sorry I missed them earlier. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Let's talk about a Renewed Solidarity. Renewed Solidarity is a... Okay, this thing's rad. I like this. I'm excited about this too. I almost bought this precon just for the commander cards. This thing's $20 and it's so good, y'all. When this enchantment enters, choose a creature type. We're probably going to pick balloons. Creatures you control the chosen type get +1/+1 at the beginning of your end step for each token you control of the chosen type that entered this turn. You create a token copy of it. The way that this thing is worded, and the way that Jolly Balloon Man is worded, they're gonna trigger at the same time. And because they're triggering at the same time, we have to stack the triggers in a certain order. We need this trigger to resolve before the Jolly Balloon Man sacrifice trigger, and that way when we make the copy of the balloon, it will stick around, because this one effect that makes the copy doesn't have the sacrifice stipulation attached to it. Or at least that's how I believe it works. Please correct me if I am wrong. High Noon. Rainbow Puffster wants us to run High Noon. High Noon is not a card I'm familiar with. It's white. It's from Thunder Junction. It's a 2-drop. It's a Boros card, actually. Each player can't cast more than one spell each turn. You can also pay 5 mana, sacrifice High Noon. It deals 5 damage to any target. So, effects that stop people from playing the game a certain way, I usually build away from. Like, if this card didn't have the activated ability to remove stuff, I would never touch it, because this would just feel mean to me. But because it has removal stapled to it, when I'm tired of oppressing my friends, I can sacrifice it and just get something. It's cool. It's not something I would typically play with, but it's cool. The art is well designed. The card's well designed too. It does stop your opponents, and we probably won't be casting too many spells because we're going to be activating our Jolly Balloon Man. Alright. D-Rex wants us to run the Porcelain Gallery. The Porcelain. Please be spelled right. Damn. Porcelain. Okay. Can I please get a spell check on Porcelain Gallery? Can I please get a spell check on porcelain? Molten Echoes! I saw Molten Echoes over, I think, from Geki over on Twitch as well just now. Molten Echoes. Thank you. Molten Echoes. This feels... My spider sense is tingling. I don't know what Molten Echoes does, but I'm pretty sure I've lost to it before. Okay, Molten Echoes is a 4-drop mono white enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, and whenever a non-token creature of the chosen type enters the battlefield under your control, you create a token that's a copy of that creature. That token gets haste. Exile at the beginning of the next end step. This thing's cool. This one's $10, so there's like Flames of the Past or some other thing. There are some other red enchantments that can make copies of creatures when they enter, if you pay mana when they enter. This one's cool though. It does work only for a certain creature type. I imagine we could take this into a human direction. There are a ton of humans that have ETBs. Or we could pick balloons. If we pick balloons, they're still going to get exiled, though. And that makes me a little bit sad. Because, you know, if we are making copies conventionally of balloons with the Jolly Balloon Man, they're going to get sacrificed. And we're going to get death triggers. If we have something with a death trigger and it gets exiled, we don't get the trigger. And that makes me a little sad. We will stick it... ETB triggers, which is cool. So every time we make a balloon, we make another balloon. Except it gets exiled instead of sacrificed. It's cool. It seems good. Feels like a win more card. It's a room card for the porcelain. Thank you, Rainbow Pupster, for the spell check. Porcelain. Wait, never mind on Molten. I didn't notice the non-token... Wait, non-token part? Fuck, I didn't notice it either. Geki, I didn't notice it either. I was just trying to be silly and talk fast. Whenever a yeah, it has to be a non-token creature. Well, that's a bummer. I feel like Sliver players run this. This feels very gross and slivery to me. Or Eldra, I don't know. I'm not gonna judge them, but thank you for your suggestion, Geki. I guess I should read things more carefully, is that lesson. My bad, y'all. I almost led y'all astray. Thank you so much for all the spell checks on Porcelain Gallery. Y'all are very good, and I appreciate you. This head pad is for you. Thank you so much. Porcelain Gallery. Alright, so we're going to talk about this $7 white room card from Duskmourn. It's a 2-drop on one side. Whenever one or more non-toy creatures you control attack, you make a 1/1 white toy. The 6-drop says, creatures you control have base power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control. This thing's sick. I like this a lot. It feels like a win con in a token deck, because the more guys you got, the more you're already winning. You just get, they're just huge. They're just silly and big. It's cool. I like it. It kind of feels a little bit like, what's that card that, Coat of Arms, it feels a little bit like Token's Coat of Arms, except it only helps us and not our opponents. This is very cool. This is a good card. I like it. Ooh, Ashnod's Altar. Geki wants us to run this here, Ashnod's Altar. Ashnod's Altar is a very cool card. It's one of the very first... Ashnod's Altar is actually one of my first, like, greater understandings of how to actually play this game. Arguable if I understand how to play this game at this point. Ashnod's Altar is a little colorless 3-drop, and it's got an activated ability that we can activate at instant speed, is the real power of this here's Ashnod's Altar. Sacrifice a creature, add 2 colorless mana. It's so good. Instant speed, sack a creature, get 2 mana. If you already have a bunch of tokens, you can have oodles and boodles of mana. If you want your tokens to die for death triggers, you sacrifice them at instant speed, even if you're not going to use the mana. This thing's really good. It's been printed to death. This version's $12. I'm pretty sure you can get cheaper ones. I'm pretty sure there's one that hangs out around $6. And if you want, like, if your deck needs a bunch of mana and your deck makes a bunch of tokens, or it does stuff with death triggers, this would be a pretty safe upgrade for a deck. I like Phyrexian Altar. I think it's really good in token strategies. Rainbow Pupster wants us to run this here. Life of the Party. Life of the Party is not a card I'm familiar with. Sounds like a new Capenna card. It's not. Life of the Party is a 3-mana red elemental. It's a 0/1. It says it's got First Strike, Trample, Haste. Whenever Life of the Party attacks, it gets +X/+O, where X is the number of creatures you got. We're going to have a bunch of creatures. We're doing Boros tokens tonight. When Life of the Party enters the battlefield, if it ain't a token, each opponent creates a token that's a copy of it. Those tokens are goated. I like this card. This card makes games go quick. It gives everybody a big guy. Yeah, it's cool. It gives everybody a big guy. It's only got 1 toughness. They have to swing with it. It's goated, so they can't swing it at you. You can make balloon copies of this thing. Well, no. The balloon copies don't work because it's on the non-token. If this thing said just creature, we could go absolutely coconuts making balloons of this thing, but unfortunately it does say non-token. But it's still a very fun card in Commander. There's a lot from the Ishin deck that can go in. What about Star Athlete? Yeah, there is a lot in the Ishin deck that can go in. I like Ishin. Ishin 2 Heavens is 1. He doubles your attack triggers. Star Athlete came out in the Duskmourn expansion. It's from the Commander precons. It's a Menacey 3/2. It's $1. It's 3 mana. When it attacks, choose up to 1 target non-land permanent. Its controller may sacrifice it, but if they don't sacrifice it, this thing deals 5 damage to that player. You can also blitz it. Blitzing it means that you're going to sacrificing it at the end step, but it'll give it haste. This thing's cool. We can potentially threaten a person with the problem permanent. Alright, so here's what's up. If I have like a Panharmonicon or a Helm of the Host or a Rhystic Study, I'm going to take 5 damage every single time off this thing's trigger. There's no way I'm going to sacrifice a valuable permanent. I'm going to take the 5, y'all. That's how I feel about this thing. But you know what's silly? We can just keep making balloons of it, and they're just going to keep taking the 5. So I don't know. What do you think the right choice would be in the Jolly Balloon Man? We're just going to keep doing it every turn. I don't know. That's interesting. Ninimoki wants us to muster the departed. Thank you, Ninimoki, for the muster the departed. Hey, everybody. I am BGM. I am an tiny MTG content creator on the internet, and I use green screen effects and other graphics to make silly little MTG content and edits. We are doing live deck building. If you have a suggestion for our Jolly Balloon Man deck, put it in the comments. If you see it over here, it'll be put into a Moxfield deck list. If you want to see the Moxfield deck list to see what other people would run the Jolly Balloon Man, check out the link tree for the Moxfield link. This is the Muster of the Departed. It's a 3-drop white enchantment. It's 40 cents. It's from Modern Horizons 3. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 white sphere creature token with flying. It's got Morbid, so at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you populate, and populate means that you make a creature token of a creature token you control. It's cool. I like it. It's cheap. It's 40 cents. It gives us triggers. We're gonna have stuff die because the balloons are gonna die. It makes us a little bit of a token. It's cool. It's a perfectly playable card. And if we make a balloon off this thing's trigger, it's not gonna have the sacrifice component attached. Wyatt B, I'm sorry, Progenitor Mimic is not in our color identity. If we try to pull up a card that's not in our color identity, because we are building a Commander deck on Moxfield, it won't come up. But thank you so much for your suggestion. I really like Progenitor Mimic. If you guys are unfamiliar, Progenitor Mimic is a 6-drop Simic blue-green creature. It enters as a copy of something, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you make another copy of whatever the Progenitor Mimic is. But we got suggested this here Arabella Boros 2-drop Artifact 1/3 toy from Duskmourn. I love this thing. I would run this thing all day in a Jolly Balloon Man deck. Because when this thing attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent, and you gain X life, where X is the numbers of creatures you control with power 2 or less. This thing itself is a 1/3. We're going to be making oodles and boodles of balloons. They are 1/1s, the balloons. So this thing's going to get nice, chunky triggers on its attack. It's cool. The only thing I don't super love about Arabella, she's only got 3 toughness, and I feel like late game in a commander game, in a commander environment, she's not going to be super impactful in the late game if we have to rebuild. I feel like the weakness of the Jolly Balloon Man is if we get wiped, we're going to have a hard time. But Arabella's cool, and Arabella's less than $1 right now. Luminant Primordial. Luminant Primordial. Luminant Primordial. It's 7 mana. It's mono white. It's a vigilant 4/5. When it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you exile up to 1 target creature that player controls, and they gain life equal to its power. This thing enters the battlefield, and you get to Swords to Plowshares all of your opponents. ETB, Swords to Plowshares on a 7-drop 4/7. This thing's very silly. If we get up to 7 mana and we have the extra 1 to make a balloon of this thing, we're gonna get 2 Swords to Plowshares. And if we don't attack, if we protect this thing and keep it alive, we can keep Jolly Ballooning and keep getting Swords to Plowshares every turn off this thing. I like this thing quite a lot. I feel like this might be the only deck I would run it in, though, because unless you're copying this thing a bunch of times, or you're blinking it a silly amount, it doesn't feel super impactful to me. But in the Jolly Balloon Man, I love this. Great suggestion. Also, it's only 60 cents. Mentor of the Meek is what I think of when I think of white weenies. Mentor of the Meek, quintessential white weenie card. It's a 3-drop, it's from Innistrad, it's a 2/2, and it says whenever another creature you control with power 2 or less enters the battlefield, you can pay 1 mana. If you do, you get a card. I like him. I have fond memories of Mentor of the Meek. I played with a lot of token decks when I first started playing, and my white was my favorite color for a long, long time. And I like Mentor of the Meek. I like little guys. I like white weenie strategies. I like Brumala's King of Oreskos. And this was simply one of the best pieces of card draw in the deck. And it made you work for it, because you had to pay for the trigger every time, and it was 1 card. It felt fair and balanced. Thank you, Geki, for the suggestion. Yeah, I like Mentor of the Meek. I have a soft spot for Mentor of the Meek. I don't know if I'd run it in Modern Commander, though. Because, like, I don't know. I feel like it's been outclassed by a lot of stuff now. Ortheon, Hero of Lava Brink. Oh, this thing. This thing is like that, not Fire Emancipate, that red enchantment that makes copies. Anyway, Ortheon, Hero of Lava Drink. Okay, we're going to call him Lava Drink from now on. He's a 3/3. He's got 2 activated abilities. You can pay 2. You can create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste. You sack it at the beginning of the end step. You only do this as a sorcery. Or you can pay 9 mana, and you can create 5 tokens that have to be sacrificed at the end step that you only activate as a sorcery. This thing's very silly. I see this thing a lot. It came out in March of the Machines. It lives in a binder, and every time I'm running a red deck with tokens, or I'm looking through my binders, I look at him. I make eye contact with him, and I'm like, is it time? And it's not. So my problem with this thing is the tokens do go away. That makes me sad. I feel like he was the Jolly Balloon Man in Mono Red before we had the Jolly Balloon Man. He's cool. I think he's a lot better in the Jolly Balloon Man because he's just so similar. He's just a little bit more cumbersome because we do have to invest 6 mana into him before he does anything, and the Jolly Balloon Man's only 4. He's cool, though. If we do have that 9 mana, I feel like we win the game with his effect. And if we have a token doubler when this thing goes off, I feel like we win the game. I don't know, though. I don't know. I tried playing him, and I couldn't get him to work out for me. How do you guys feel about Ortheon? Sun Titan's a 6-drop. Sun Titan's a 6-drop mono-white creature. I think it's a 3/3. Never mind. It's a 6/6. It's got Vigilance, and when it enters the battlefield, you may return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. I love Sun Titan. Any card that says whenever it enters and whenever it attacks, you do a thing. Those cards are so good because you can just keep getting the effects to go off throughout the course of a game. It enters, it does something. It attacks, it does something. You just keep attacking with it, and you'll keep getting to do things. This thing, notable about this thing's trigger, you can also get like an Evolving Wilds, right? Because it doesn't say non-land permanent. Yeah, you can get back like a Myriad Landscape, you can get back your Evolving Wilds, you can get back your fetch lands. This thing's great. Even if you don't have a lot of low-drop permanents in the graveyard, you got a land in there, plop it back down on the battlefield, sack it again, keep searching. I like Sun Titan a lot. He's another card that I have a soft spot for because I played with him a lot when I first started playing. He's very cool, though. ETB and attack. A creature with an ETB and attack trigger is so good. What's that red one from Duskmourn? The red one from Duskmourn that does 4 damage when it enters and 4 damage when it attacks? That one's amazing. Gideon, Marshall, Paragon. Gideon, Marshall, Paragon. Gideon, Marshall, Paragon is the Amonkhet 5-drop. He's the Planeswalker from the Planeswalker deck, if you remember those products from a few years ago. He's a $150. He's got 3 abilities. +2, untap all creatures you control. That's pretty good, yo. We can use that. We can untap the Jolly Balloon Man. Make more balloons with him. 0, until in the turn he becomes a creature. He's an indestructible 5/5. You prevent all damage that would be dealt to him. -10, creatures you control get +2/+2 until in the turn. Tap all creatures your opponents control. Okay, cool. I think this is the most sexy Gideon has ever been, in my opinion. This is a good profile. He's cheap. He's a $150. He's from the Planeswalker decks. He can untap our commander. He's 5 mana. He's cool. He's a perfectly serviceable card. He himself can become a creature, or you can just untapping your commander. Honestly, if I was running him, he's just going to untap the Jolly Balloon Man all day. Even if we can get to that -10, no one's going to let us get to -10 on this thing. Who are we kidding? We're just going to keep untapping our commander with this thing, is what I imagine. It's probably what I would do with it. Nope, it is now Boil Biggles. Boil Bilges. Boy, that's right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Boil Bilges. Boil Bilges? Bilge Boils? Boil Bilges? Bilges. How many cards can have the word Bilges on them? Probably not a lot. Only 2. One of them is the Overlord of the Boiler Bilges. Bilges are those, you know the hull of a ship, it's got that shape. The bilge is the bottom portion. Sometimes it fills with water. It's a 6-drop. It's an enchantment creature. It's a 5/5 for 6 mana. When it enters, you deal 4 damage, and when you attack, you deal 4 damage. This thing would be a very spicy thing to make a balloon of. We can make a balloon of this thing, and when the balloon enters, it deals 4 damage, and because the balloon's got haste, we're going to attack with it. When it attacks, it deals 4 damage. Also, we deal the damage to any target. I love this card. I think this is probably one of my favorite cards from Duskmourn. This entire Overlord cycle of cards, they enter, they do something, they attack, they do something. That is so good. That is such a good design. Also, it's got Impending, so you can cast it for 4 and give it Suspend. Yeah, but when you suspend it that way, it's an enchantment on the battlefield instead of a creature. It's cool. I like it. It's so good. Great piece of game design. Brian wants us to run the Paradox engine. Paradox Engine. The Paradox Engine. Uh-oh, is Paradox Engine banned? If Paradox's engine is banned, it's not going to come up. I'm sorry. Lulu Loyal Holly Font. Lulu Loyal Holly Font. I'm pretty sure this is a Baldur's Gate background card. Oh, it sure is. It sure is a Baldur's Gate background card. It's a 4-drop Elephant Angel, 3/2. It flies. It gives you an end-step trigger. If a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, probably a balloon left the battlefield, we put a +1/+1 counter on each tapped creature you control, and then you untap them. This thing's cool. I really wish it didn't do the untapping at an end step, though, because the Jolly Balloon Boy over here only works at sorcery speed. It's my #1 complaint for our boy, the Jolly Balloon Man. If he worked at instant speed, he would be broken bonkers crazy. Yeah. For those reasons, I feel like it's a little bit of a nombo. I wish it untapped it before. Lulu is awesome. Lulu is undeniably awesome. You are correct, D-Rex. I just don't think he's awesome right here, right now. There and back again. There and back again. Sounds like that Red Saga thing. I like there and back again. It makes Smog. Smog's a dragon that wants to die. Alright, so this here enchantment, it's a 5-drop Saga. It says for the first one, up to 1 target creature can't block for as long as this creature, as long as this there and back again stays on the battlefield. You get a ring temp trigger. The second step says you search your library for a mountain card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Notable about the way that this ability is worded, as long as you have the land types on the card, it doesn't have to be a basic mountain. It can be a triome or a shock land. Yeah, so that's cool. The third one says you create Smog. Smog is a legendary 6/6 red dragon. With haste, it flies, and when it dies, you make 14 treasure tokens. Notable about Smog, we can make balloons of Smog from Lord of the Rings. And then when those balloons get sacrificed at the beginning of our end step, they pop into 14 coins. Great. I love, that's a very cool, that's the dream. I gotta tell you what though, I play this card, I run it in my treasure deck, your opponents can see it coming, and often my Smog is exiled before I can murderize it. It's a bummer, but it happens. And once you make 14 treasures, that's probably the rest of the mana you need for the rest of the game, if we're being real. Once you get those 14 treasures, you have the mana for the rest of the game in a Boros deck. Fear of Missing Out. Fear of Missing Out. Fear of Missing Out, it's a card. It's from Duskmourn. It's an enchantment creature. It's a 2-drop nightmare 2/3. When it enters the battlefield, you discard a card and you draw a card. The act of discarding a card and drawing a card is known as impulse drawing. Delirium, if you have 4 or more permanent types in your graveyard, when this thing attacks for the first time each turn, if there are 4 more card types in your graveyard, you untap target creature. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Yikes on Trikes. This thing's great. It gives us additional combat phases as long as we got spicy things in our graveyard. We might have a little bit of a hard time filling our graveyard in a Boros deck. Holy snap! Thank you guys so much for the 1,400 likes. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys. Yeah, this thing's cool. This thing's $8. I'm pretty sure this thing's also seeing play in Standard. It's a cool card. I think that's why it's $8. It gives you additional combat steps. We do gotta fill our graveyard though to take full advantage of it. Geki wants us to run Darien, King of Keldor. Darien, King of Keldor. We're gonna just type the K and not the J. Oh, there he is. Okay. Darien, King of Keldor is a very silly mono-white commander if you're running him in the command zone. He's a 3/3 for 6 mana, and whenever you're dealt damage, you create that many men. You make that many 1/1 soldier men when you take damage with our friend Darien. He's very cool. He's a silly... There's a lot of... He's a surprisingly effective mono-white card. There are quite a few white cards from older Magic that when they you cast them, they deal a little bit of damage to you. And when they deal that damage, when Darien's on the battlefield, you make that many guys. I've lost to Darien plenty of times. I think he's really silly. I tried to build him before in other commander decks, and I don't know. He hasn't quite worked out for me in the way that he's worked out for people when I see him in the command zone. He does, if you get him in the early game, he can decentivize your opponents from attacking you, which is interesting. That's cool. I don't know. He does make you a ton of guys. Tiller Engine. Tiller, is Tiller Engine the vehicle that makes mana? No, it's not. Tiller Engine is a 2-drop artifact creature construct. It's a 1/3. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you can tapped under your control, untap that land, or tap target non-land permanent opponent controls. Okay, cool. This thing's interesting. So I would want to run this in like a 5-color deck where I'm running a bunch of tapped lands. Maybe in a Gates theme, this would be really cool to run. I don't know if I would run it here unless we were just running like scry lands and all kinds of tap lands. Like if we're leaning really hard into just making sure we get our colors and we're running the kind of crummy tappy lands, this thing could be cool. It is $9. It is undeniably a very good card, but I don't really see a lot of value out of making balloons out of it, personally. Well, it can tap down things. It could tap down things. I don't know. How do you guys feel about Tiller Engine? Beza! I love Beza! Beza looks like a Vera Bradley bag. She has an alternate art, and it's very Vera Bradley purse-coated. If you are a child of the early 2000s, you know what a Vera Bradley bag is. You might know it by name. Excuse me, you might not know it by name, but you'll know it by sight. It's a very triggering bag. Okay, anyway, Beza's a 4-drop. She's got a ton of words on her. She's a 4/5. She's an elemental oak, and she's beautiful, basking amongst the sunflowers. When she enters the battlefield, if anybody has more of a resource than you, you make a little bit of that resource. So if someone's got more lands than you create a treasure token. If they got more life, you gain some life. If they got more creatures, you make some fish. And if they got more cards than you draw a card. It's very cool. Normally you get all the things. Like, if you are behind, you cast Beza, you get a ton of stuff. You get some, it's cool. I like it. It's $15. That is a pricey little elemental elk. I don't know, it's cool though. I like Beza. Beza's cool. It's a chunky 4/5. It gives you a ton of value. The only thing I don't love about Beza is reading it. It feels like a really clunky wording, and it does a lot. And that's my only complaint about Beza, is that it's really wordy. But the art is so good. The art is so good. I like Beza. Mirror Battlesphere. Mirror Battlesphere. Let's talk about Mirror Battlesphere. Mirror Battlesphere has gotten me and killed me so many times in Commander. This is a 7-drop little mirror ball creature. It's a mirror construct. It's 7 mana. It's a 4/7. When it enters the battlefield, you make 4 little colorless mirror creature tokens. And when this thing attacks, you may tap those mirror creature tokens, and it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, and deals X damage, where X is the amount of things you tapped to a planeswalker or the player you're attacking. This thing's great. It is a win con in the Urtet 5-color mirror deck. It's very fun. It is a ball of guys. If you want to roll over your friends with a ball of little metal guys, here's your Mirror Battlesphere. Mirror Battlesphere is only 50 cents. It's a cool little win con if you care about artifact creatures or creature tokens. I like it. It's fun. It's a ball of guys that you can roll on your friends. Hey everybody, if you are just now joining me, I am BGM. I do live deck building, and on tonight's live, we are doing the Jolly Balloon Man. We have been going for an hour, so we're going to take a few more and call it a night. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. We're going to pull up a Riders of Rohan, suggested by Dream Demon. Thank you, Dream Demon. Here's Riders of Rohan. It's a Boros 5-drop human knight 4/4 from the Lord of the Rings expansion. When it enters the battlefield, we make 2/2 red human knight creature tokens with trample and haste. Balloons will do that too when they enter. We can also dash it out. So we can cast a spell for its dash cost. If we do, it gains haste, and it's returned from the battlefield to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So the reason we want to dash it is so we can keep getting that ETB trigger. Keep recasting it, keep getting those ETBs, making those little tramply, hasty tutus. This thing's cool. If we keep making balloons of it, we keep making those tutus when those balloons enter the battlefield. Those little tutus having trample and haste, those are some significant keywords. That's pretty good. This is a good one. Also, it's only 50 cents, and the art is quite cool. That man needs a haircut, but it's pretty cool art. Idol of Oblivion. Idol of Oblivion. Idol of Oblivion is a 2-drop colorless artifact. It's a $1.50. It's got 2 activated abilities. You can tap it, you can draw a card, activate only if you created a token this turn. So you can draw a card if you make a balloon. Pay 8, sacrifice Idol of Oblivion, you make a 10/10 Eldrazi creature token. This thing's cool. It is 2 mana, it is card advantage, and we are going to be making tokens because that's all our Jolly Balloon Man does is make tokens. So this thing's just a cool card that we can tap every turn and draw cards off of. I like this quite a lot. Number 10 is going to be Idol of Oblivion. Thank you very much for the suggestion. Scooby Doofin with number 8 is going to have Enduring Innocence. Enduring Innocence is a rad card. It's white. It's from Duskmourn. It's those glimmer creatures. These the enduring cycle of glimmer creatures from Duskmourn are my favorite cycle in a while. They're super good because you gotta get them twice. You gotta remove them twice. Because when this thing dies, it enters as a non-creature enchantment version of itself. This thing has an ETB trigger, kind of similar to Mentor of the Meek, except it's cheaty because we don't gotta pay for it. Whenever one or more creatures you control power 2 or less enter the battlefield, draw a card. It only triggers once per turn, though. This thing, though, would be an excellent candidate to make balloons of. I'm pretty sure. Okay, I'm not a judge. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong. So we could use the Jolly Balloon Man, tap him, make a copy of our precious little Sheep Glimmer. The Sheep Glimmer says when it dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control if it's an enchantment. I'm pretty sure when our balloon version of this thing dies, it doesn't come back. Because the way it's worded, it says return it. Tokens don't exist when they're changing zones. So I'm pretty sure we don't get it back. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It would be cool if we get an enchantment version that's a token, but I'm pretty sure we don't. That would be too good. Tokens, yeah, that's true. Tokens can't be brought back. Thank you, Rainbow Pupster. Rainbow Pupster is going to have our number 8 pick with a Patron of the Arts. Patron of the Arts. Patron of the Arts. Patron of the Arts is a free drop red Dragon Noble 3-1. When it enters the battlefield or dies, make a treasure token. 10 out of 10. 10 out of suggestion. 10 out of 10 suggestion. Rainbow Pupster. Let's talk about it. So the best cards we can run in our Jolly Balloon Man build tonight are creatures that have an effect when they enter and when they die. And this thing makes a token when it enters and when it dies. Great suggestion. Also, it's 40 cents. Also, this dragon is a girl, and it's also in a dress. And I'm sure that really tickles somebody. Not me, but I'm sure this is somebody's very specific thing. And I'm really happy for them. Number 7 is going to be a Crisis of Conscience. Crisis of Conscience is suggested by Gecky. Thank you very much for our number suggestion card. Number 7 suggestion, Gecky. Appreciate you. This is a Doctor Who card. It's a 6-drop sorcery. It's 50 cents. You either destroy all tokens or destroy all non-land, non-token permanents. I love this card. Okay. This is very cool. I usually hate hard on the Doctor Who cards. I don't love a lot of the way the Doctor Who cards were written rules-wise. I feel like they could have been more concise. This thing, design-wise, is cool. This is one of the older Doctors on the art. I'm not sure which one. I'm not a real Doctor Who fan, but it's cool. If we care about our tokens, if we have other things that are making complex tokens, I imagine we're going to cast this and save our tokens in a token deck. That's what I imagine we would do. All right, number 6. Giles Maturana. Thank you very much. You say I look amazing with glasses. That's not a card, but I appreciate it. Gunnar, good to see you. Hey, Gunnar, good to see you. We are just winding down, Gunnar. You don't get it back. Tokens that leave the battlefield are exiled. Oh my God! Thank God, Giles, you are exactly my target audience. Mondrak. Okay, so we're gonna talk about Mondrak one more time, and it's gonna be our number 7. Mondrak's rad. Mondrak is my favorite card from OLB1. He's a 4-drop legendary Phyrexian Horror. He's a 4/4. He's got an activated ability where we can pay Phyrexian mana, sacrifice some stuff, and put an indestructible counter on him. And we want to protect our boy here because our boy doubles tokens. Not just creature tokens, but all the tokens. Treasure tokens, food tokens, non-creature tokens, and creature tokens. Mondrak be doubling all the tokens. This thing's great. It's 50 bucks. It's got very cool art. It's great. It's like the premier white token doubler. A lot of people do prefer Anointed Procession over Mondrak because Anointed Procession is a 4-drop as well in white. That's only 1 pip, and it's an enchantment. Enchantments are a little bit harder to remove typically than creatures. But this thing's cool because it's got that little insurance policy built into it. I like this thing a lot. That's our number 6 pick was Mondrak. I hate the rules-wise. The Doctor Who cards are, but I'm just happy they did a Doctor... Honestly, Gecky, I am too. I don't like the Doctor Who stuff. But I'm glad that, because a lot of people love the Doctor Who stuff. Every time I turn on my webcam, we see at least one Doctor Who card. So they've had a good reception. And I'm glad. And I really hope that they do a really good job on the Final Fantasy set. Karmic Guide is our number 5. Karmic Guide. I love Karmic Guide. Karmic Guide's really good. It's like, when I think of recursion and white, I think Karmic Guide. Karmic Guide is a little 2/2 flying angel for 5 mana in mono white. When it enters the battlefield, you can return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. If you have a Karmic Guide in your graveyard, and you have an effect to take a creature from your graveyard and put it on the battlefield, you pick Karmic Guide. Because Karmic Guide will pull another creature out. It's so good. Also, if you have the Panharmonicon or the Elish Norn or any of the other ETB or trigger doublers that we've seen this game, or excuse me, this live, this thing will trigger twice, pulling out multiple things from your graveyard. I love Karmic Guide. They printed this card a bunch, so it's cheap too. Number 5 is a Karmic Guide. Thank you. Siege Gang Commander. Siege Gang Commander. Siege Gang Commander is a 5-drop goblin. It's a 2/2. When it enters the battlefield, you make 3 little 1/1 goblin people. Activated ability, pay 2, sack a goblin. This thing deals 2 damage to any target. This thing's cool. It turns your little goblins into lightning bolts. Or not lightning bolts, it turns them into shocks. Shocks is a 1 mana red instant that deals 2 damage to any target. This thing can do that. Yeah, that's very cool. When we make this thing into a balloon and it enters the battlefield, we're going to make 3 guys off it too. Very cool suggestion. That is our number 4. Thank you for the suggestion. All right. Siege Gang is amazing, Goatman. All right. Wake the Reflections. Wake the Reflections. Suggested by Ninimoki. Thank you for the suggestion over on Twitch, Ninimoki. Thanks for hanging out with me. Wake the Reflections. Okay, I'm not familiar with this card. Wake the Reflections. It's a 1-mana white sorcery that just says populate. Okay, I can vibe with this, and I'm gonna tell you why. It's super, it's quaint, it's elegant, it's simple. It's a 1-mana sorcery. You make a copy, probably of a spicy balloon person that we created, and you make another copy. Because we're making a copy with the populate trigger, we're not gonna have to sacrifice the balloon at the beginning of our end step because we're making it with this. Or at least that's how I believe it runs. I like it a lot. It's simple. It's simple. The card art's cool. I like the little Selesnya stamp. This is a win for me. I also love that it's 40 cents. Great suggestion for number 3, Ninimoki. Thank you. All right, number 2, Gunner with the Gift of Immortality. Gift of Immortality. Good to see you, Gunner. Hey, everybody. I haven't plugged the Discord, I don't think, a single time. If you want to hang out with me and the other gay nerds in the Discord, check out my link in my link tree. It's a good time. We talk about Magic the Gathering and food and each other, and it's a good time. Gift of Immortality. Gift of Immortality. Yeah, and also, if you want to vote on the commanders that we're talking about next week, you can vote on the Discord as well for next week's commander. Gift of Immortality is a 3-drop, it's white, it's an aura, and it says that you enchant a creature. When an enchanted creature dies, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Return Gift of Immortality to the battlefield attached to that creature at the beginning of the next end step. I like this thing. Okay, cool. This thing is $7. So, we've seen Sun Titan and Sun Titan-like effects. Sun Titan can take permanents from our graveyard and put them onto the battlefield. This thing's cool. I like it. We can keep putting on creatures, and it's kind of like a life insurance policy. It's like a life insurance policy. I like this thing a lot, actually. We can put it on our commander and pull stuff out when the Balloon Man goes, because the Balloon Man's going to draw some removal. All right. We are going to do one more. I know we said the last one was number 2, but this is going to be... Wake is bonkers. That's spicy as fuck. Say Eartha Joe. Eartha Goatman is going to be our last pick of the night with an Eartha Joe. We haven't seen Eartha Joe. Let's talk about Eartha Joe. Eartha Joe is a Boros 4-drop core advisor 2/4 from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. When it enters the battlefield, you make that little mercenary that can change the power of creatures. Whenever you activate an ability that targets a creature or player, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy. Who put this in here? Goatman. Great suggestion, Goatman. So because of the way that our commander's worded, the sorcery speed, the sacking at the end step, we haven't seen a lot of things. We didn't see a Strionic Resonator. We haven't seen anything else this live deck building that doubles up the activated ability, except for this. This is very cool. I like this. Also, it's 40 cents. It makes a mercenary, so it's part of the token strategy. Great suggestion. Great suggestion, Goatman. I really appreciate it. All right, guys, I have to be getting to bed soon. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. One more time, I am Bigger Gayer Magic, or BGM. On lives, we do live deck building. Tonight, we built the Jolly Balloon Man. If you want to see any of the cards that we talked about over here, please check out the Moxfield link in the link tree. And if you want to vote on commanders next week, check out the Discord. And if you want to laugh at some very stupid green screen videos, check out my videos. Thank you guys so much for hanging out.